So, as we head towards the end of this key-specific improvising course, the advanced key-specific improvising course, I'd like to just start by summarising the ground we've covered so far on the site on the subject of key-specific improvising. Key-specific improvising is my way of describing the musical skill of being able to improvise along to any piece of music, really, based simply on the knowledge of what key that piece of music is in. And to do this well, you really need to be familiar, thoroughly familiar, with at least 6 basic scales. And those are the blues scale, the minor pentatonic scale, and the natural minor scale. The country scale, the major pentatonic scale, and the major scale. Of course, it also requires that you can quickly and correctly work out the key of the part of the song that you're improvising to. Now, I know we probably touched on this earlier on in this course, but I think it's worth now taking a closer look at exactly how we actually do that. So now I'm going to show you a game that you can play to really help develop this skill and overall to help develop your confidence in your ability to improvise along to more or less anything. Now, to play this game, you need to be able to access 3 websites. Here are their URLs or addresses. I'll show you now just exactly how I use these 3 websites to practice improvising along to a wide variety of songs that are quite literally chosen at random. So first I visit the site random.org. Then I go over to the right of the screen here to their random number generator. Now we want to select a number at random between 1 and 500. So we leave the number 1 in the minimum box and we put the number 500 in the maximum box. Then I click on the generate button, and just below that button you'll see the result come up, in this case 346, and I simply note that number down on a piece of paper. Then I just repeat the process by clicking on the generate button again. This time I've got the number 216, so I note that down and I keep going. Got 138, 311, 493. So now I've got 5 numbers picked at random in the range between 1 and 500. Now you're going to see why we need those. Next I go to the Rolling Stone magazine site. And from that page, which is rollingstone.com/music, we scroll down and we're looking for a box on the right of the screen that says More Lists. that box, we select the item that says 500 greatest songs. That then takes us through to this page, and then what we're looking for is the first random number we selected, which was 346. So the best way to use this site is to scroll down a bit until you come to this block of ranges of numbers. This is slightly tricky to use because the ranges are actually backwards, down from 500 to 1. But we're looking for 346, which is going to be in this range here, 350 down to 341. So I click on that, and then we just get these 10 items up here. I look for 346, click on that, and we've come up with the song by Aerosmith, Walk This Way. So I'm just going to jot that down on my paper pad. And I'm writing down both the artist, Aerosmith, and the name of the song, Walk This Way. Okay, then I scroll down again and we get our number range back, and we're going to look this time for our next number on the list, 216. So that's in this range here, 220 down to 211. I've clicked on that. There's 216, so I'll click on that. Excellent, it's come up with a Neil Young song. So Neil Young, I'm writing that down, Rocking in the Free World. And I carry on like this. Next number is 138. So that's in this range, 140 down to 131. Click on 138 and we get a Beatles song, Eleanor Rigby. Again, I'll just jot that down on my paper pad. Scroll down again. And the next number I want is 311. So that's this range here, 320 down to 311. Looks like another Beatles song. With a little help from my friends. Again, I'll just jot that down, and now I find my last one on the list, 493. And that comes up with MGMT, Time to Pretend, which is a song I've never heard of. That'll be interesting. Armed thus with a randomly selected list of songs, I head off to the YouTube site. And there I used their search tool to find the first of our songs on our list, which was the Aerosmith one. And oh yeah, Walk This Way, and that's already come up there. I just typed in Aerosmith, and on my pop-up list we've got the song Walk This Way. And now there's a number of options have come up, and I want to try and pick the original sort of studio version of the song where possible, because live versions sometimes are a bit out of tune, sometimes a bit poor quality, so if possible go for a studio version. That sounds like it. Okay, so now your first task is to figure out what key the part of the song is in that you want to improvise over. Here is a three-step process that never fails that you can use to do that. Step 1, listen to find where the song resolves or where it comes to rest. Step 2, sing or hum that note. Step 3, find that note on your fretboard. So here's a real live demonstration of this process in action. We'll start by using the first song on our list of randomly generated songs. Okay. So I start just by listening to hear where the song resolves. A bit hard with this riff. Okay, now we're into so I make that C. Alright, so I'm going to use that because I want to improvise over this part of the song. Don't really want to try and improvise over the riff part. Okay, so slightly unusual song that, in that it starts with a riff. I wouldn't really try and improvise over the riff because it's such a strong riff, you wouldn't want to try and compete with it. So I think the part of the song that I choose to improvise over would be based on the chords that are actually being sung over. And at that point, I sort of homed in on the note C as being the key note. So the next step is to try different scales, really to home in and see whether the sort of major or minor scales or blues or country scales seem to fit best. So let's try that. Like that one. Either of those will do. That works, but it's probably a bit too much. Try the major one. Just let the riff go through. Major pentatonic probably work. Or the country. But probably not the major scale. Okay, so I'm not sure if you could hear me over the top of that, but I just tried all 6 of our scales out there really, and for me the sort of pentatonic scales probably work the best. Blues and country scales both work okay. So it's quite a sort of bluesy based song, which means we're getting away with mixing major and minor really, but in that case we don't necessarily want to use the whole of the minor scale, the natural minor scale, or the whole of the major scale. In other words, the pentatonic scales are probably going to be work best over a song like this, which is probably true of 90% of rock songs. Heavy rock songs generally prefer simpler scales. Okay, so anyway, we'll just do a bit of improvising over it now, using those scales, and just sort of perhaps fine tune a little bit what we could be doing over it. Straight minor pentatonic, no problem at all. I'll try the major pentatonic now, just to see. Not so good, not so good. So I'm going to stick just with the minor pentatonic. Oh, there's a solo. Alright, that's interesting. Alright, so that was interesting for me. It's a song I have heard before, but to be honest I've never actually played it. So it's a real live stuff, this. But I did try out both pentatonic scales there, and although I could make the major one work, it didn't really match the song. It just had too much of a country feel. So to really give it its sort of rocky feel, I think we should simply stick with that minor pentatonic over that one. And then I noticed, having come to that conclusion, that when the solo kicked in there on the actual recording, he was using very much the minor pentatonic. So nice to know that I'm thinking the same as the Aerosmith lead guitarist, whose name, if I ever knew, I've definitely completely forgotten now. Okay, so let's just check out the next song on our list and see what we can do with that. So the song comes to rest there. That's the resolved note. And bum. Let's find that note. Bum. Bum. So I make that an F. Okay, so easy enough to hear that that was in the key of F. Again, listening to it, I'm suspecting it's another sort of very rocky song, another pentatonic one, I'm guessing. But I will try each of the different scales out and see which ones I'm happiest with. So let's just have a little improvise over it now. I'll try the major one just for fun. Definitely not. So no doubt at all, we're in a minor key here. Okay, so once again, really very rocky tune, and wouldn't want to stray too far from the pentatonic scale or the blues scale over that one. That one very definitely has a sort of minor sound to it, so it wasn't at all tolerant of using the country scale. So different from the first song in that respect. All right, let's look at one more. We've got Eleanor Rigby. Yeah. trickier on this. Okay, that's one note. So very much E. Wearing the face that you keeps in a jar by the door. Who is it for? All the lonely people. I can hear it's in a minor key. I will try the major, but definitely not. So in E minor, we could use the pentatonic. Writing the words of a sermon that no one will hear. No one comes near. Look at it working. Nodding his socks in the night when there's very melodic, so I probably prefer to use the natural minor scale. Start hunting the melody. So this song's quite distinctly different in type really to the first two. I'm instantly inclined to say that I would want to learn the melody of the song and use that mostly as the basis to improvise over it. Just doing sort of blues licks and things over it isn't going to work in the same way as it did over the rockier tunes. So I kind of hear the melody in my head, da 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 da. I'd sort of weasel away at that for a few minutes until I sort of pretty much track down the melody and then use that as the basis for improvising, probably together with the notes from the minor scales. Okay, so that's a great game to help you develop your key finding skills and generally to build your confidence that you really can improvise along to just about anything. I can't recommend that enough. Now, you may hit snags with this occasionally. Some songs are easier to work out than others. For example, songs with prominent guitar parts are a lot easier to work out than keyboard-based or orchestrally arranged songs. The tip here with those sort of songs is to turn the bass up as loud as you can if you've got that facility on your playback device. And then use the bass notes to work out the key. Also, they're very useful to work out chord changes. Okay, now another snag that you may hit occasionally, especially with live performances, particularly amateur recordings of live performances, or with very old recordings, is they may not be in concert pitch, they may not be in tune. Now you can of course tweak the tuning of your guitar to compensate for that, but generally speaking that's probably more trouble than it's worth, and it makes more sense just to carry on with the next song on the list. Unless of course the song that's a bit out of tune is one that you particularly want to learn, then go to the trouble. Now this approach is ideal for developing your general hearing ability and improving your overall improvising skills. But on its own, I wouldn't say it's sufficient an approach to get to know a song well enough in the event that you're going to perform it live or work on it in a studio as a session musician. In either of these cases, I believe a far more thorough approach to getting to know the whole song is necessary. So I guess the last part of this lesson is aimed at professionals or would-be professionals, and also those of you who, although you may not have any aspirations to play professionally, nevertheless really want to hone your guitar playing to the highest standard possible. Now in my experience, getting to know a song is a bit like getting to know a person. You can always get to know them better. Also, I'd go so far as to say that the better you know a song, the higher the chances of you turning in a really stellar performance when playing it live or recording on it. So here, as I see it, are the layers involved in getting to know a song. First, you really need to know the basic structure of the song. So point one is work out the basic underlying chord sequence. Then work out the form of the song. This means how the song is structured, the order of the different sections of the song. It might be intro, verse, chorus, verse, middle section, solo, verse, chorus, outro. That's what we mean by the form. Thirdly, write out a rhythm chart for the whole song, showing time signatures, bars, repeats, intros and outros. Then work out the melody of the song and make sure you can play this in 2 or 3 different positions on your guitar. This list for me represents the very least amount of work I would want to do on a song that I was going to perform, to record, to produce, or indeed to teach. Now, if I was going to play lead guitar on the song, I would want to add these steps to that. Find which scales work best. I'd explore different scales and take notes of which ones work best over which sections of the song. Combine the melody with scales. I'd experiment with combining the melody of the song with each of the different scales that I'd worked out in step 1. Learn the intro and outro, or develop a strong intro or outro of your own. Step 4, create ideas that support the vocal lines. Find some licks that embellish and support the vocal line. Work out just how much or how little of this is appropriate for the song. And a good tip here is that less is often better than more. Step 5, learn instrumental links. Learn or develop your own instrumental links between sections of the song, if appropriate. Or copy the links that are used on the recording. Note that these may sometimes be played by a different instrument to the guitar. Finally, here's my list of somewhat less obvious ways of getting to know a song really well. These are all things that, in my view, really help you get inside a song. And they're things that I would pay attention to probably if I was producing a song for somebody else or working on writing my own version of a song. Firstly, learn the bass line. The bass line of a song can sometimes reveal hidden subtleties in how the song is harmonised. Bass lines can also act as a source of ideas for lead guitar riffs and licks. Learn the drum patterns. Listening closely to the drum patterns used in a song can really enhance your understanding of the rhythmic elements of a song. If you can, try and write a version of the pattern on a drum machine or on a computer-based recording application if you use one. Thirdly, learn any other lead parts. Listen to sax solos, keyboard solos, horn section parts and string arrangements. These are all a rich source of ideas, all of which can inspire your guitar soloing. Fourthly, learn the lyrics. Less obvious one, this, but learning the lyrics and even researching a bit into what inspired the writer to write them can open up your understanding of the feel of the song. This informs your lead guitar performance, sometimes in quite unexpected ways. Step 5, research the cultural background. Understanding the cultural background of a song, putting it into its historical, social, political or ethnic context can again have surprising results on how you approach playing it. One could argue that your version of a song can be made more sympathetic by this sort of background work. And finally, hunt down other versions of the song. The best songs often have been recorded or performed by many different artists, each in their own style. I can spend hours on YouTube listening to versions of the same song, and I find this helps open up possible ways of interpreting the song that you may not otherwise have considered. Also, more importantly, I think it helps free up your creativity when you realise that others have experimented with changing the key, the chords, the tempo, the genre, the orchestration, and even the lyrics in some cases. Well, I hope that gives you some ideas of how best to really get to know a song and prepare yourself best to play it to the highest possible standard. It does look like a lot of work, but I have to say it's very enjoyable work. To remind you of these 3 layers of how to familiarise yourself with a song, I have prepared a printout which you can access from the toolbox to the right of the screen. Now that about wraps it up for key-specific improvising. As a next step, I strongly suggest, if you haven't already done so, getting as far as you can with the guitar music theory courses. These provide an ideal foundation for launching into the more complex but more versatile world of chord-specific improvising. Now, if you have already got as far as you can with the music theory side, then I'd probably recommend to you the Rock and Roll Rudiments course in the advanced section. This course, even if you've no interest in rock and roll music as such, you would find a very, very useful introduction to the whole subject of chord-specific improvising, and it's a fun course to do as well. So, whichever approach you take, whichever path you take, I look forward to seeing you again soon.